Hello everyone, welcome to Skill Inspirational Academy. And today I am gonna discuss Palo Alto interview question. Then this is the session number one. Okay, so let's suppose you have went for an interview and like interview have asked one question, which is what is virtual wire mode in Palo Alto? What are the use cases for that? Right. If someone have asked this question, now how you will explain? So the thing is, if I'll talk about the virtual wire mode, so the thing is Palo Alto have a different kind of deployment mode. So first mode is your tap mode deployment. Then we are having vWire deployment, which is your virtual wire deployment. We have a L3 deployment mode and L2 deployment mode. Okay. So let's suppose I am having a some kind of network which is where I am having my firewall here. This is any firewall. Maybe it's a like legacy firewall. I am having internet service provider here. Behind this, I am having connectivity with the internet. After that, I'll have one L3 switch here. Behind this switch, I am having some L2 switches. Or we can say I am having some VLANs or some kind of subnets. Okay. Now, this is a legacy firewall, right? So it can only inspect the traffic on the basis of layer 3 and layer 4 information. Okay. Which means it can inspect the traffic on the basis of IP address and your port numbers, right? But n- now there is a one requirement. You want all the layer 7 functionalities, like you want the antivirus protection, anti-spyware protection, vulnerability protection, data protection, file protection, all these layer 7 kind of functionality you need, right? If you need this kind of setup, and what is the requirement here? You are also running some kind of routing protocol between this segment and this segment, okay? And there's a point, you don't want to change any kind of routing between this segment, and also you don't want to modify any kind of IP schemes, whatever you are using, but you just need a layer 7 functionality. So in that case, what we will do, we will place our firewall into vwire mode. And in vwire mode, what we used to do generally, we will just cut this wire into two pieces and we will put our firewall here. This is my Palo Alto firewall, and I'll just connect one part of this wire, this particular wire here, which is Ethernet 1/1 interface, and another part of this wire with another interface of my firewall, which is Ethernet 1/2. And after that, I'll just configure all the security policies, all the security profiles into my firewall. And now all whatever traffic is flowing from this network to this network, or the traffic is coming from internet till your end users, all this traffic going through your Palo Alto firewall. Now Palo Alto firewall will do the inspection. It will inspect the traffic. Okay. S- So if you have seen this particular design here, it's a similar kind of design, guys, where I am having my router, then internet, I'm having my servers now, and I also have here layer 3 switch. Okay. Some kind of routing protocol is also running between these two devices. Okay. And they don't, if we don't want to modify any kind of, we can say, IP schemes or routing things, in that case we will just put a firewall into a vwire mode. So in vwire mode, typically what happens, whatever traffic my firewall receive into this interface, it will just inspect this particular traffic against the security policies, security profiles, and it will just forward that traffic through the another interface. Okay. So the thing is, to when we deploy this firewall into vwire mode, generally we have to we need a two interfaces. Okay. And we need to put these interfaces into a zone, and we can just give this interface like inside zone, this interface as a outside zone. Okay. And after, we also needs to create a one virtual wire group, and we needs to basically put both these interface into that group. Okay. So like that we will do the configuration of this particular vwire deployment. This particular deployment is also known like, because we are just cutting a wire into two pieces, right? So this kind of deployment is also known as like bump in the wire. Means we are just doing a bump in and wire. Okay. Bump in the wire mode. This mode is also known as like transparent mode deployment, because these two devices is not aware about this firewall. We don't need to configure any IP address on these interfaces of this firewall. So these two devices not aware about there is a one device. So generally this device is like transparent to the network, but By putting this 5 into this mode, we are getting the layer 7 functionalities, guys. Okay. Now, why basically vWire mode come in a picture? Because the thing is, before that, you need to understand what is tap mode. So in tap mode, what happens? You are having your firewall here. You are having internet service provider. You are having your layer 3 switch, which is L3 switch. Behind this, you are having your L2 networks or your VLANs. Okay. Now, the thing about having in tap mode, what we used to do, we have to put a firewall in a side and we have to configure the spam. We have to configure the spam technology on this particular switch. So whatever traffic is flowing through this interface or receiving into this interface, all copies of this data going to the firewall, and firewall just do the monitoring, right? He will just monitor this particular traffic. So the thing is, now if you now the thing is, it's a upgrade. Like tap mode upgrade is your vwire mode, where we are putting a firewall into inline mode, and it will basically do the inspection for that. Okay, so this is your vwire mode, and these are the use cases also. These are the use cases where we will generally implement this particular mode. And if I log in into my firewall, okay, this is my firewall. So typically what I have to first go to into my interfaces, okay, and I have to choose this interface type as a virtual wire. I'll go into this interface as well, and I'll just choose this interface as a virtual wire. After that, I'll just go to into zone, and I'll just create a, I'll already have an inside zone and outside zone, but what I will do, inside for vwire, I will just create a separate zone for vwire, and I'll just select the type is virtual wire, and I'll just call these interface ethernet 1/4. I will make as a like as a inside vwire interface. Okay, I'll create one more zone which is outside vwire. This just a name, outside vwire. Type is virtual wire, and after ethernet 1/5 I will call, click on OK, and after I'll go into virtual wires. I'll need to create a virtual wire group actually. So v wire group, I'll just create this group, and I'll just call my interview ethernet 1/4 and ethernet 1/5. I have to give the tag. If you are having any kind of layer 2 environment, but I'll just go with default value here, and I'll just click on OK. Like this, I'll configure this particular mode. After that, I'll just go into my policies, and I can create my rules according to this mode. I will select my, I'll give the name like vwire. In source, I'll basically define here inside zone, outside. Like this, you can also be able to create a security policies. Okay, so this is guys your virtual wire deployment mode, and these are the use cases as well. Okay, these are the different use cases also with regards to your vwire. Now, second question is what is wildfire and how it basically, what is the operation of wildfire? Okay, so generally wildfire is a cloud cloud-based threat analysis system where what meaning? Let's suppose we are having here Palo Alto Firewall. Let me just take a small this one. Let me just draw first diagram. So I am having my Palo Alto Firewall here. This firewall have a connect with the internet service provider, and behind this we are having few servers. This is my LAN network. Behind this I am having some PCs. Okay, now what happens, let's suppose this particular PC is trying to download some kind of file from this server. Now when this particular file reaches to this firewall, so what happens now, my Palo, let's suppose if we have configured this wildfire in my firewall, so what it will process this particular packet through the wildfire analysis. So wildfire is generally used for detecting the unknown threats, unknown threats, or we, and also unknown email links. when the email links is also known as unknown domains or unknown phishing links. Okay, whenever we receive an email and that email maybe someone have put some kind of basically malicious, we can say here a malicious phishing URL. So these kind of things also it will generally detect these unknown threats and email these phishing attack, these phishing basically URLs, and it will just send this particular data towards the wildfire cloud, guys. In wildfire cloud, basically now wildfire analysis will happen. It is also known as like some kind of sandboxing. So in wildfire cloud we have a, like all kind of devices, like we have a, like VMware devices, we are having physical devices, all kind of operating system, and on these all kind of OS, my basically that particular file or this particular file it will basically run, and that after that Palo Alto just observe the behavior of this file, and according to the observation they will basically categorize this file into four types. First type is like denial, grayware, malware, or phishing. So these are the four verdict which is provided by the Palo Alto 4 and file. And this particular like wildfire is just used for detecting the unknown threats, because known threats is basically detected by the security profiles like antivirus profile, anti-spyware profile, right? So here right now we are sending these files to the public cloud. We will also have a one more device which is W500. This particular device we use for the public private cloud, as a private cloud. So if we are working in a defense sector and all, in that case basically they use at this particular, we can say, private cloud. We can also set up a hybrid cloud. So my Palo Alto Firewall the file to this particular private cloud, then private cloud further send this file towards the public cloud. That kind of things also we can do. So now let me just explain you the operation of wildfire. Okay, so the what happens when Palo Alto Firewall receives a file. Okay, so it will receive a file. Now it will just check, it will firewall just check this file, it is signed by the trusted signer or not, means if this file is issued by some kind of trusted authorities. Okay, if yes, in that case it will allow. Otherwise what, if no, then it will just calculate the hash on that particular file. Okay, he will calculate the hash on that file, and after that it will basically match this hash value with the wildfire database, or we can say wildfire signature database. If this particular hash value is matched with any of the signature, in that case, now if any signature is there, which means that particular file have a verdict. Okay, now according to the verdict, my firewall basically see if it's a benign file, which means it's a clean file, it is not having any kind of malwares, so it will just allow by the network, but allow by the firewall. If file type is a grayware, so grayware is the file type. These are the files which looks like a malware, but in actual they are also a clean file, but their behavior may be a type some kind of malware kind of behavior, right? That kind of file also we will allow. If verdict of this file is like a phishing, in that case basically we will deny. If verdict is malware, we will deny that particular file. Let's suppose this file is not seen by the wildfire, means there is no signature database for this file. In that case, it will basically now check the size of the file. If file size is basically less than whatever we have configured, because we will not send all files to the wildfire analysis, we have some kind of size limitation. We will, if file size is maybe 2 MB, then only we will forward that file towards the wildfire analysis. So it will check that size. If file size is high, in that case basically it will not send this file for the wildfire analysis, it will just allow that file. Let's suppose the file size also comes in a size whatever we have configured, it is minimum than the maximum value whatever we have configured, so it will now send this file for the wildfire analysis. Now that file basically go towards the wildfire analysis, where Palo Alto basically perform the wildfire analysis. What they will do, they will have all kind of devices, like they are having here all flavors of Windows, all flavors of Linux on VMware environment, on basically on VMware environment, on physical environment, all kind of iOS they are having, and they will run this file into through these particular operating system, these particular against these systems, and they just observe the behavior. Okay, and after that, observing the behavior, if according to that their observation, they will basically divide this file into four types: denial, graveware, phishing, and malware. What they will do, they will inform firewall, so they will right away inform this firewall regarding the burning of this file. Okay, and they will just update the file list, and after that, so that file list they will update into the support portal, guys. Okay, and after that they will generate the signature. In case of if it's file related to malware, they will generate the signature, and they will send signature to the firewall. So if you are having like Wildfire subscription, then you will get that particular signature database immediately within 5 minutes. If you don't have a basically that particular Wildfire subscription, then you will get that particular update with regards to the signature as a daily updates for your threats, guys. So for that you need a threat prevention license. Okay, and after that, basically like that, basically this Wildfire operation works. Okay, for that, you if you want this particular feature, you need to implement a Wildfire. You need a Wildfire, we can say you need a Wildfire license for that. Okay, if I go to into device tab, into setup, into Wildfire, here the thing is, this is the wildfire.paloaltonetworks.com. This is the public cloud, guys. If you are having private cloud, you can give the IP address of your wf w500 device. Okay, wf500 device, right? These are the limits of the file. So if file type is PDF, then limit is 10240 KB. If file type is like APK, then file size is 10 MB. So these kind of basically limit is there. Okay, and after, if I'll go to into objects, into Wildfire, here you can just create a Wildfire profiles. Okay, you can define the file type and all, and after that you can just call this profile into your security policies. So like that we will basically do the configuration of Wildfire. So generally Wildfire, basically the main objective of this Wildfire is to protect your organization from the real time attacks or from the unknown attacks about which your organization is not have any kind of signature on the firewalls, and or maybe your organization is not aware of these attacks, right? So some kind of unknown kind of attacks it will prevent. Now third question is, what is the difference between virtual router and virtual systems? Okay, so let me tell you what is virtual router first. In Palo Alto Firewall, if you want to configure the routing, guys, in that case what you have to create a virtual router. So the thing is, it's basically by creating this virtual router, and after you have to allocate the interfaces into this virtual router, and later after that you can basically configure the routing. You can configure different routing protocol, like it will support OSPF, it will support RIP, it will support BGP. These kind of routing protocols you can basically configure in this virtual router. Okay, so you can also have, like, let's suppose you are having some kind of setup where you are having your Palo Alto firewall. Okay, where you are having, let's suppose you are having these Ethernet 1/1 interface, Ethernet 1/2 interface, Ethernet 1/3 interface, and Ethernet 1/4 interface, right? Let's suppose this interface have a connect with the ISP1, this interface have a connect with ISP2. Okay, behind this you are having few servers. Here also you are in few server. In that case, what you will also get a functionality like that. You can just put these two interfaces into one virtual router, put these two into another virtual router. Okay, if you want a communication between these servers and this server, in that case you can also enable the inter virtual routing. That thing also possible. Okay, so virtual router is generally used for just enabling the routing on your Palo Alto firewall. Now virtual systems. So like if you have people having any experience working with Cisco ASA, right? And Cisco ASA, that virtual system is known as a like context. If you have worked with the router, the VRF. virtual routing forwarder. It's equals to virtual systems. BDC. In case of Linux, same thing is known as BDC. Okay. So the thing is what is the meaning of virtual system? Virtual systems are the logical firewalls. Okay. So whatever, let's say you are having very one big box, like so 50 to 100 series box. Okay. So what now you need, if you want to create a virtual system, and that what you can just divide this firewall, like this is your BSS1, this is your BSS2, then BSS3, then BSS4. Like that, you can basically divide this one physical box into multiple logical boxes. And after that, these logical boxes, they are the individual firewalls. They are the individual firewalls. And after that, you can just give these firewalls to different companies. So generally we use BSS. Let's say you are having this kind of infra where you are having one firewall. Okay, that is the, let's say, 50 to 100 series firewall. Now here you are having some server for SCL. Here you are having some server for, we can say, let's suppose Wipro. You have some server for here for TCS. Now what, and you are having connectivity like this. This is Ethernet 1/1 interface. This is Ethernet 1/2 interface. This is Ethernet 1/3 interface. Okay. What is the requirement here? SCL peoples don't want any kind of communication with the Wipro peoples through this firewall. They need that kind of segment. They want any kind. They don't want any kind of communication which allowed from SCL to Wipro. In that case, what they need a dedicated firewalls, right? SCL need a dedicated firewall. Wipro also need dedicated firewall, and TCS is also need a dedicated firewall, right? So what you have, but so the solution is either you can just purchase a dedicated single firewall for these three companies, or either what you can just, you are having one big box, what you can create three BSS. You create a BSS which is named with SCL, create one more BSS with the name of Wipro, create another BSS with the name of TCS, and just so this entire Ethernet 1/4, then you are having Ethernet 1/5 and Ethernet 1/6. Okay, now you are having this kind of infra where, so this interface and this interface is a part of SCL, this interface and this interface is a part of Wipro, this interface and this interface is a part of TCS, and all these three now they are the individual firewall for these companies. But in actual, what you have done, you have created the virtual systems. So basically that is your virtual systems. Okay, means you, these are the like individual firewalls. So what you have done, you have just divided one physical unit into multiple logical units, guys. This is your virtual systems. Okay, now let me just move towards the next question, guys. So let me just get that question. The next question is, what is Uternet? Okay, so to explain Uternet, what I will do, let me just get one picture, guys, for Uternet. Okay, because I will able to explain properly by using that picture. Okay, just give me a second. I'm just fetching that picture. Okay, picture is here. So first, let me tell you what is the issue we will face in case of, if we, why we need Uternet. Okay, so what were the issues there? Okay, so let's suppose we are having our Palo Alto firewall, we are having our web servers, we are having some internal host. This is ISP. Okay, and behind this ISP, what we are having one DNS server. This is the public DNS server, just remember, public DNS server. Okay, now what we have done here actually, guys, let's suppose I am having here 200.1.1.1.10 IP address, and that IP address basically, let's suppose, is if someone, let's suppose someone who is sitting in the internet PC1, they wants to send a request on this IP, what that request basically reaches to this file. So what I have used here, destination net in my Palo Alto firewall. Okay, now So what we have done, because this is a web server, so generally to remember these IP addresses sometimes become difficult. So let's suppose if someone try to exchange www.crnets.com, so we have just do the DNS binding of www.crnet.com with 200.1.1.10. So people, when this PC, if he wants to exchange, if he want to access this server, what he will do, he will open his browser and type here there in that browser www.crnets.com, right? So his first request go to DNS. DNS basically give the reply with that IP address, which is the IP address of crnets.com. After he will just send that request to a firewall, and my firewall receive this request on this IP, so it will just forward this request towards this web server. This is the flow which is happening from outside towards this inside network. But now we do have a few inside users, right? And now if this user who is sitting here, if he also wants to access this particular server, what he has have two ways here. Either he can access directly by putting this private IP address, right? Or the second thing, either he can just put the public IP address, or maybe he will just put the URL of that particular website, which is crnets.com, right? So the thing, when he will put this public IP address or this URL, that time this particular user will face issue. What happens in that case? Now this, if this user trying to access crnets.com, what he will type crnets.com in his browser. So the thing is that request first go to Palo Alto, then Palo Alto forward this request to a DNS, right? And that DNS server give the reply with the IP address, public IP address of crnets.com, right? Now when this particular router get the IP address of crnets.com, that public, so now this particular request he will forward towards this IP address. This request reaches to the firewall, right? Now in firewall, destination will happen, destination net will happen. So the he will create a packet like this. Okay, let me just, source IP address is 10.50.240.131. This is the source IP, and destination IP is 200.1.1.10, right? So when this request to the firewall, because on firewall we have configured the destination net, right? So my firewall just translate this IP address, right, into server private IP address, which is 10.50.240.100, right? So now this server receive a request from 10.50.240.231. This is the source IP address, right, which he received, and destination IP address he received his IP address 10.50.240.100, right? Now, now the thing what this server will do, he will just, when he receive this request, he will just reply to this particular PC directly, because this IP address, which is 10.50.240.131, is in same segment, right? So they can communicate locally. But what is happening? This PC is expecting the reply from 200.1.1.10, but he's getting the reply from 10.50.240.100. So what? It will drop that request, guys. So that is the issue we will face, right? Now, what is the solution for this one? Either what is the solution? So this server is hosted over www.crnets.com, and public IP address for crnet.com is 200.1.1.10. Okay. Now, either what, we can just introduce one local DNS, LDNS here. So now, whenever this server basically send a request towards www.crns.com, his request reaches to this LDNS, and on this local DNS, what we have done, we have just created one entry for crnets.com is available over 10.50.240.100, right? So the thing is what, now he can just send the direct, he will reach this server directly on this IP address, and he will give the reply, right? That is the one case. Now let's say we don't have this local DNS. Okay, we don't have this local DNS. Okay, we don't have this local DNS kind of setup is not there. In that case, basically we have to configure the Uternet, guys, to resolve this issue. Okay, because we will have only public DNS server where cns.com is this one, right? So what we will do now, when this system is trying to access www.cnet.com, what he will just forward the request towards this Palo Alto firewall. So what we will do, we will configure the Ethernet in this way. So source IP address he will put, which is 10.50.240.131. This is the source IP, and destination IP address is 200.1.1.10. Okay, this packet is to the Palo Alto. Now Palo Alto, what Palo Alto? Palo Alto will do the net translation. So what? When Palo Alto translates, so he will Palo Alto translate this IP address, which is the destination IP, on this IP address 10.50.240.100. This is the destination IP address. Okay, and my Palo Alto firewall also translates the source IP address with interface IP, which is 10.50.240.63, and this is the packet reaches to this server. Now when this server needs to give the reply, what? Because source is this one, so my server will give the reply to Palo Alto firewall. And when Palo Alto receive this request, with Palo Alto change this IP address with the PC IP address, and this IP address with the public IP, which is 201.1.10. So like that, basically we will solve this kind of issues by configuring the Ethernet. So in Ethernet, what happens? We will translate 200.1.1.10 with this IP address, and the local, or we can say LAN IP address, into the Palo Alto internal interface IP address. Okay. So like when we will do this like this, we will able to resolve our problem. Okay. So this is the Ethernet, and this is the way how it works, guys. Okay. Now let me just move towards the next question, which is